Hello and welcome to this episode of MarkLogic Data Modeling, Embedded Triples. This video is part of a series of data modeling topics. You will learn some of the benefits of embedding semantic triples into documents. The target audience is developers, database administrators, or anyone else involved in data modeling. A fundamental familiarity with MarkLogic is assumed. Additional details about these concepts can be found at marklogic.com/resources and docs.marklogic.com. The topics we will cover include how to embed triples, the loading of embedded triples, and leveraging documents with triples. Now, traditionally, triples are only placed in a file with other triples. So they're in there all by themselves. In this very simple example that we have here, you can see that we actually do have two different triples that do have the same subject. They are both articles. The first one there is an article, and it says that this article has a category of Premier League. And the second triple says that we have an article with a sport of football. So again, this is as basic as you get with having triples all by themselves. But what if we wanted to associate some triples with a particular document? One way would be to embed those triples in the document. So let's start with a simple one. In our example here, we've got our triples like we saw previously, but now we've gone ahead and we've added in some other content as well. So we've got two triples, plus we've got a body, and we've got a title. So there's more stuff here going on than just the triples. Now the documents get much more interesting as the amount of content increases. So we've gone ahead and stepped it up another notch. What I've done is I have our semantic triples here. In this case, we are talking about an article that has a category of history and an article that has a topic of Manchester City. And then I've gone and I've taken a large block of text actually from Wikipedia. You can see we've got our attribution here if you want to go and check this text out for yourself. But it does go on for quite a ways, as you can see by the thumbnail on the right there. So we've now got a lot of kind of bulk content, and we have triples all together in one file. So why do we want to do this? What's the point? Well, it's for efficiency. Now, when I go to retrieve the history of Manchester City, I only need to retrieve one document, and I get everything, the content and the triples. If I need to update or modify that information, I'm only going to have to go and update a single document. I am much more secure in my data integrity, since I don't have to worry about whether or not I actually got all of the triples when I went to do an update. Plus, it makes it easier to handle all of this information from both an ingestion and a retrieval standpoint. Because again, it's one file. And on top of that, our middle tier will be happy, since they only need to do a single pull to get everything. But they still have the capability of doing full text searches and Sparkle queries. So when we go to load this content, realize what's going to happen. All of the content, so the entire file, is going to be indexed as normal. So it's going to be part of the universal indexed, and we can do our full text search. But what is also going to happen is the indexer is going to recognize that we have triples and add them into our triple index. And this is how we get the best of both worlds, by embedding our triples. So before we get to the actual ingestion of the triples, let's get some of our prep work taken care of. What I've done is I've gone ahead and I have created a database already for us, in this case called Embedded Triples. It has a single forest within there. And the Embedded Triples database has the triple store turned on. Let me show you. So if I scroll down right down here we have our triple index, and it has been set to true. So this means that the indexer is going to be keeping an eye out for triples as we are ingesting our content. I've also gone ahead and I have created a REST application server, and this is going to be used for interacting with our information. And so it's here in my case on 8060. And you can see that it is making use of my embedded triples database. Now remember, you can bring in these documents however you want to. All of the standard methods of ingestion do support us ingesting documents with embedded triples. So as a simple example here, I've gone ahead and I have 3 lines of xquery that will go and do document loads for us and bring in those 3 sample files that we just walked through. So we've got our Manchester City history, our match 1, and our basic files. Let's go ahead and run this. So you can see it comes back and tells us that it worked. The documents have been loaded. And just to prove that to myself, let's go ahead and explore. So we can see that we have our 3 documents that have been ingested. Notice the formatting on those. 2 of those are listed as articles. Their triples are embedded. And they are still there. If I click on one, we can see that those triples are still part and parcel of the document. So remember what happens under the hood here as we are doing the ingestion. The system is doing that full text index and making note of those triples and adding them into our triple index. For our final moment of truth here, we want to make sure that all of our triples were appropriately identified and added into our triple index. To do so, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I have brought up the Graphs API Things interface that we have. And this happens through the use of our REST application. Remember, I showed you earlier on that this application server is pointed at our embedded triples database. So it comes up and it shows me that right now we only have one subject in our triple index, which is understandable because actually all of my triples did share that same subject. Now, if I go and I click on this, we should see multiple triples in here. And we do. We see all of the triples across all 3 of those files. It's not just the ones out of our basic file, but we've got the other ones in there as well from our match and from our history document. Now remember, at this point, this means that I have documents with embedded triples ingested into MarkLogic. So I can now go and use Sparkle to leverage these pieces of information that we see here, these triples, and at the same time, I can go and leverage our very powerful CTS search and do our full text searches as needed across the content as a whole, and do it all at once. Plus, I have that knowledge that the data is all in one place, right? The triples that are appropriate for the document are actually in the document. And it makes my updates and potentially removals that much easier as we go on through time. In this video, you learned how to embed triples, how to load embedded triples, and leveraging documents with triples. Thank you for attending this MarkLogic University on-demand course. Please visit mlu.marklogic.com/on-demand for a complete selection of on-demand topics.